I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is FTB Genesis. Now, this setup that you see behind me, well, this is going to be ultimately the setup for UU Matter, but there's going to be a few things that we need to do in order to fully get this set up. But for now, we can actually start working on our production of scrap boxes, and we can benefit from this because scrap boxes in themselves can produce a ton of loot. And I think now that we have power, based on last episode, getting our power set up and getting our LPG running into this thing, I think we can easily get this going. Now, our paths are going to diverge into two separate places. If we take a look at the Project Genesis tab, we have this section that leads into titanium, which we're going to need before we can actually start producing UU Matter. Now, UU Matter is here, but we will need titanium to be able to actually make this. And why is that? Well, that's because UU Matter is, believe it or not, made in a very specific machine, a mass fabricator. And all it really needs to produce this material is power. It just needs to be powered, and then over time it will produce it. Now, you can give it amplifiers, which will speed up the process in the power that it's given. And so you can actually give it the best material, which is scrap metal. So if we have spare metal, which we should be able to eventually do, we can go ahead and amplify this to its maximum, making sure that it produces as much as we give it power. Now, we should be able to sustain the HV power, which is going to be the 512 EU this needs, but this is where it divulges, right? So it's going to divide because we are going to need these stabilized machine blocks to even make this. And to do that, we need stainless steel. And up here, I have shown the process for which we actually obtain this. And it is a totally different branch. And thankfully, we have just about everything ready to go for this. And so once we get our scrap boxes started today, we're going to be working on the stainless steel. And that means going from a runic altar to the agglomeration plate through Botania to making a seed on that plate, the titanium seed. And then we're going to get titanium ingots, and then we can make titanium coils, which are going to lead us into the electrolyzed alloyer. And that is going to allow us to make stainless steel. And then all we have to do is simply add it to our setup here. And we are going to be producing UU Matter along with all of the other materials that scrap boxes produce. Now, because this elemental craft process of getting through all of this stuff to make titanium takes a bit of time, well, we should utilize that time in an effective way. And what we should be doing is taking those scrap boxes and producing them and converting them. So we're not just wasting power, because this is just running, producing power, and it's going nowhere right now, really, aside from producing oil. And well, so we can actually use this. So I already have the machine set up here, and let's explain. I'm going to try my best to explain scrap boxes. So this is going to produce, it's going to be producing cobblestone in this slot once we put cobble upgrades in there, and then that is going to produce scrap. So let's go ahead and get that set up and set this power up. Now, this is a tier 2 machine, and I have a NV or a HV converter here. I'm going to be sending it power through this battery box. And the way I'm going to send it power through the battery box is, believe it or not, from our power that we got set up. And we can do this wirelessly. So I'm going to take this GPS card that I was testing out earlier just to make sure this all even worked. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that this is selected on that battery box. And what we should notice is this stored section should increase. That's what we want. We want to see that stored go up. So if I put this in, we should notice this drop. And that is because all of the power is being consumed from here, and we are limited by that 1.7, it looks like 1,000 RF per tick or so. I'm not exactly sure of the conversion rate, but hopefully it's enough. Now, this is building up, and what we want to do is we want to take this, and we want to send it into our HV converter. So to do this, we just simply use a thick gold wire, I think is one of the best, and that's going to start producing it's going to start producing, taking our RF, dividing it by 4, and hopefully producing this amount. Now, because we're dealing with high voltage, this machine will work. This is an NV machine, so we can put a transformer upgrade in here. But it's not as easy to do for a machine that is still in the base tier taking HV. Now, you can't, from what I know, I don't think you can put 2 transformer upgrades in here. That's sort of the problem. So what I want to do is actually upgrade our extractor to the next tier. And to do this, the extractor needs a little bit of a weird recipe. We basically need to electrolyze water. So I have an electrolyzer that is setting directly on top of the MV flux converter. And this allows this to electrolyze water cells. And this is going to give us electrolyzed water, which is going to allow us to make the next tier extractor. I mean, I don't make these recipes. This is how it is. Now, while we're waiting for that to upgrade, we can go ahead and get this set up. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cobble generators in here, and this is going to produce cobble. This is how we're going to make the scrap boxes. And because this is going to be producing cobble, essentially it's just going to infinitely start producing this material. So we need to get it from the bottom of this machine into a tier 1 crafter. And these are pretty easy to make. You just need electrum and be able to turn those into wires. And that's the only thing preventing you from making the casing. So we have this. This is also going to need power. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is using another GPS. We can get this all powered under one system. And so it's all wireless for at least this part. And so we should be able to simply get this hooked in and add it to the GPS. And there we go. So now we are ready to go on there. That crafter should have power, so it should be able to accept. And there it is. Now, how do we configure the IO for this? Well, that's where we just need some item cards that just need to do some simple extracting. So from here to here, we basically need to take our item card and go for the up and down. And the up is going to be an extract. Very simple. I'm going to set this to whatever it can max out as of right now. We can put upgrades in later. And then just an insert for the down. That's going to send it into here. Now we can go ahead and build our first recipe. And this is going to be scrap boxes. So we're going to be taking scrap that it's going to be producing and turn it into scrap boxes. And then we just need to hit apply. And now anything that goes in here, which will be the scrap, will get converted into scrap boxes, which means we then need to pull that out and send it into something. And for right now, what I want it to do is eventually go into what is going to be our mass fabricator. But for right now, what I can do is I can go ahead and send it to the left or right. I think for right now, I'm just going to send it into this barrel until we get our machines up and running. So let's go ahead and put on the up. We're going to put an item card and we're going to set that to extract. And then over here to the right or east, in this case, we can just insert. And so all the scrap boxes, once we hook this up, will end up going over here for now, where we can automatically open them. But eventually what I want is for them to go in these new machines we're producing. Now for the cabling, I'm going to use glass fiber cables from IC2. These are really powerful cables and support quite a bit of power. So I want to make sure before I hook cables up that we are transferring the power correctly. So this is going from HV and is turning this machine to allow for this. So this should accept it. And then no other machines were hooking into this. So this should be fine. And we shouldn't have any explosions when we hook it up. Okay, good. Everything's good. So this is going to take a while to wind up. But when it does get to full speed, it is producing scrap boxes incredibly fast. And we even should have at this MV tier, we should have plenty of extra scrap boxes that our machine is not going to be using down here. The ultimate goal later on would hopefully be to provide iron to this, so that way we can get our scrap metal and use that later on. But for right now, this is going to be one of the best ways. So this is going to produce scrap. That's going to build up, and our scrap boxes are going to end up in this barrel for now. Let's actually check on our other set over here. And let's see. We're almost done here. We need 7 of those containers. And that'll allow us to automate the process of opening the boxes. And that's where things get fun. So we should be able to make our extractor. And now we have a centrifugal extractor, which is going to be able to accept this power. Well, not HV, but we'll be able to accept it with an upgrade. And now this is where Laser IO really shines, because even though we're attached to the side of this machine, we can access the top, the bottom, the sides, any side of this block we can actually interact with. And we can pull from or send to. It's really powerful. And so what we can do is on the side that it's connected to, we can give ourselves some cards here. And what I want to do is I want to insert now the scrap boxes into this machine. And by default, by putting that card in here, we're doing this. So I'm going to stop sending to this side. And what I want to do is I want to instead interact with this card, and we can actually tell it to send to the up, specifically on this card. And what we can do is actually also extract. So we can now extract from the down of this machine. And so in doing that, we can also take the items now from this down. And let's go ahead and change the channel. So that way we make sure we're in a different, basically a whole different pipe, essentially like a virtual pipe. And then I want to send to the backpack. And so for that, I'll just change the channel. And now it should send the items, not the scrap boxes. It shouldn't be sending scrap boxes because we should be on a separate channel now. So I think the scrap box got sent accidentally. Now, as soon as this gets powered, we need to make sure that we get our cable hooked to it. There we go. And now this is going to speed up just like everything else. I think on this one, I can put a inverter on here to make sure it stays powered. So let's put an inverter on here because this one probably won't have items always running through it like this one will. And so if we get that inverter, that will make sure to stay always powered. And it's going to extract the items, and we should see our extracted items get transferred into the backpack. Now, this is where things get a little bit more powerful. There's a lot of junk that comes out of these scrap boxes, and I don't want that junk to end up going into here. So what I want to do instead is use a void upgrade. And then in the void upgrade settings, by default, it's set to void, for example, a whitelist void. So anything you put in the allow, it's going to void it if it tries to put it in the backpack, right? So we actually want to flip this. We want to flip this to only items in here are what are allowed to be in this backpack. So if I switch this to blocking mode, now everything gets voided that this produces. And so we need to start specifying specifically the items that we want. Now, one of the easiest ways to do this, I think, is to look at the scrap box and then just basically go into what these scrap boxes produce. And then go through this list and determine potentially the things that you want the most. Now, the raw ores are pretty nice, but I think things like redstone, and we can go ahead and add it to over here by hitting A over it. Coal dust is important. I probably want the copper dusts. Maybe all of these dusts would be nice. Even diamond dusts. These balls would be nice. Iron, gold, actual diamonds, emeralds, and then to kind of determine the real things that we want. The things we want the most. Like, do I want these tin cans full of fluid? Probably not. I'll probably take cake. I don't want any of the like animal materials. I'll take leather, bone, slime balls would be nice. Gas tiers, of course, nether scrap and nether stars if we can get those. But outside of that, I'll also take grass. And everything else, I don't really need too much. Maybe we can accept dirt and netherrack and soul sand. Definitely want redstone. And everything else, I think we should be good. So I think redstone we already had. So all of these items that are now in this list, we need to go through here and say, what specifically do we want the most? Well, specifically diamonds. We definitely want nether stars, and we definitely want nether scrap. Slime balls, and we definitely want gas tiers. And then I want bone for sure. Definitely want diamond dust if it's going to give it to me. I want these plant balls. Definitely take redstone, and I'll take soul sand, netherrack, and dirt. And then it's a little bit more tedious here. What exactly do I really want from this as well? Definitely rubber balls. That'd be great. Do I really want cake? Probably not. I think that's just like a filler item. And so this is basically it. I have two other slots. We can go ahead and say, how about copper? And we can also accept gold. I think that would be fine. And you'll notice these are the items that are going to be filling in here. And everything else should disappear. Do I need coal dust for anything? I think coal dust would actually be better than gold dust, because I think coal dust we can use later on. So there we go. So we have basically an infinite item generator that is just coming from our infinite power source. Now, this is why I said it would be a good use of time, because we can let this actually run for a little while, and it's already started to generate a lot of useful resources. I also changed one of the resources, by the way, for bread, because I need bread, and I don't want to have to work on it. So now while that is producing, we can actually get into elemental craft just a little bit, just so we have enough to be able to make the items needed. Here, we need to get to this solar prism. So to do this, we're going to need a few things set up, and we're actually going to need to do this in the wasteland for some of these. But I think I know now what synthetic node I actually want. And it's definitely going to be the water node. Now I'm heading off over here to an earth node, because this is how we're going to get started with our elemental craft journey. So back down here, we now have our earth node. And so we need to extract to it. Unfortunately, we don't have a nice clear area down here to do this. Let's go ahead and build one out. So how am I going to get this in here? So what I need to do is place down a container for right now. And then I'm going to utilize my element extractor on top of this to draw the element into the container. Now, I need to technically move this to another container over here. So I'm going to use a pipe that is going to be connected. Now, the way that you manage these pipes is on the side that you want to extract from, you just right click it, and now it's going to send through this pipe into this small container here. And so this is where we're going to infuse some stuff, just in the field. And to do this, we're actually going to need gilded blackstone. In the quest, we're looking for white rock here. And yes, we need to produce white rock, but for some reason it requires specifically gilded blackstone to do this. I'm assuming eventually we'll have to set up some sort of automation for these things. But yeah, so we should be able to just place this on here. That's going to do the infusion. And now we get some of this. Thankfully, we get some in return, which is going to allow us to get into these next sections quite easily. Now, I did notice something. We are going to need amethyst, and I haven't found amethyst yet or a way to get it. I know eventually we can make a seed, which is definitely going to be the thing to do, but we need to find some. And I think some of the best ways to do that is to find caves underground. Now, essentially, I need to work my way to the elemental binder, and that means I need some drenched aluminum to do this, which is going to need aluminum that is going to be done the exact same way, but it's infused with the water. So here we have our aluminum, and we just need to set it up on the water node, and that's going to produce the drenched aluminum. And just like that, we have ourselves an elemental binder, but we still need the container that the elemental binder goes on, and I'm pretty sure the quest actually gives us the element container, which is a much larger storage for our elements here. Now, this is also going to be the same kind of element that we're going to need here, so might as well actually hook in the tank directly into this. And notice it's going to be a much larger storage, which means it's going to take a little bit longer for this container to fill up. But this is where the elemental binder is going to go. And we can do the crafts on here. And it's very specific when you go to craft this shard. You're going to have to do it in the order that it shows here. So we have to place this in first, then the nether quartz, and then the water crystal, and then you will get the shard that you need. And this is ultimately what we're after, right? Because we then need to take this shard and we need to combine it to make, I believe it is used for the still seed, like to be able to actually produce the still seed. Nope, sorry. It is used for the rune of mana. Here I am losing my mind. And this is what we're going to need this, because to make that still seed, we need an agglomeration plate. So yes, it's going to require 2 of them to make the first one. And thankfully we won't have to worry about this for a little while after this. Now for these crystals, we're going to need to infuse a crystal here. And to do that, it's exactly the same way. It uses the infuser. We place it in and it's straightforward. Now I need to find amethyst. Oh boy. And like I said, I think the best way to do this is to maybe find like a massive opening in the ground. Maybe flying around, we might be able to encounter one. Now I just remembered there was actually some inside of the main unit area here. We can tap into this maybe. And so this actually can be used, believe it or not. So we should be able to take these and then cut them on a cutting board, and we should be able to get some amethyst shards this way. Thankfully, we don't need too many. I assume that there's going to be some in the world, but yeah, we can use these to actually make amethyst seeds, and then we don't have to worry about it. This is actually pretty nice. Let's go ahead and do that. And now we have enough to make the seeds. So a simple boop, boop, and boop. And now we should be able to craft amethyst seeds. Yeah, so we can put that in our farm. So yeah, I'll just simply replace the coal seed that was in here since we have a whole line of coal, and that will get us more amethyst. Now back to making this item. So it needs to go amethyst, nether quartz, and water crystals. So as soon as we do this, it should be amethyst, nether quartz, and water crystal. We click these inside, and then once they are inside here, it should do the operation, do the process, and now we have ourselves a sprinkline. I think I said that right, shard. And then we actually get rewarded with a block of this material, and then it wants us to make that prism. Now the block of this material, can this also be cut down in a cutting board? Okay, it looks like there's a bee actually that can produce this stuff. That is kind of ridiculous. But yes, it looks like blocks of this are used later on down the road. But yeah, we're going to need 2 of these. So let's go ahead and put these in and get our final one. Now these pipes, unfortunately, these are the lowest tier pipes, so they're not super fast. And they don't do a really good job of transferring between 2 different vessels. But I definitely want to leave this running and get this vessel, like this container, nice and filled up. So here we go. I can actually make the solar prism, which is kind of funny because we used water to make it. So now we have that, and that should complete that quest. And we actually get a diamond heart. Allows for cheating death. The revival reduction, the revival reduces health by 30% for 300 seconds after reviving. Goes on a cooldown for 300 seconds. So this is a like totem of undying? What? We just get given a totem of undying. And it apparently goes in one of our curio slots. One of our super curio slots? Is that what this is? Right there. So I guess we're resistive to dying right now. It does have a cooldown. So if we die twice, we're kind of, well, we're gonna die. So now that we have that done, we technically have completed this elemental focus chapter, right? Well, no, actually, did we do this? Delve into the primal focus chapter? Yeah, needed for the mana runes. So yes, we have done that technically. And so we now are moving technically to the titanium section, which is also going to allow us to do the UU matter section. So titanium, yes, this is going to require us to make runes. And we have just about everything we need for runes. I do have enough mana technically inside of here. Both of these are full mana pools. They have been running just while we've been working on other things. And this is just about ready to go. I should be able to now technically break this for now. Let's take the items off and I'll place this down here. I can put the lens on. I don't think it matters too much, but I need to effectively link that to here. That's going to drain from both of these mana pools, but it's going to allow me to craft runes incredibly fast. So the main rune that's the hardest one to get is going to be this one that requires this. It also requires a mana still, which is just iron. So let's go ahead and make sure we have enough iron for this process. So there's some iron. And let's see. Let's go ahead and drop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, this needs to go in a regular mana pool, doesn't it? Oh, wait, no, it's actually, it's this refined iron that we're going to need, because refined iron, if I remember correctly, that's what actually gets turned into mana steel. So we just need 5 of them. And so we should be able to just drop it all in. And now we have the mana steel required. And so what we're going to do is it's just simply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which I'm pretty sure was what was required. 5, and then 1 solar prism and a little bit of mana. And that is going to create a rune, and that's sending mana to it. And this is where we're going to need a rune. This is where we're going to need living rock. So it'll just sit there until you place living rock on it. And you can just right click living rock on it and then right click it with the wand. And that is going to produce our rune of mana, which is a very big leap in this section right here. And then we also need to make all of these runes as well. Now I will tell you this, runes are a pretty tedious process in Botania. This is the one thing that will slow you down in Botania. And it's just something that you just have to get sort of used to. And so what I like to do is I like to lay out my items inside my inventory. So I'll look up the runes, and this is sort of best practice for me. And I go, okay, this is always going to require mana powder and mana steel. That's pretty simple. But then I then go in and I just start to craft all of the individual items that are needed for these runes. And I lay them out in my inventory here. That way it makes it super easy to just drop them in for the craft. So just like this, I have all of the items laid out and I can just simply queue them out like this. And it makes it so much easier. And then just have your rock ready to go for whenever you want to actually craft them. And just simply rinse and repeat. Now, just like this, I now have the last part. And that completes that runic quest. We get a blacker lotus, which I'm going to save for just down the road. We also get a mana in the bottle. And I'm scared to do this, but I am going to do this because it can be funny. Let's go ahead and drink the bottle. Okay, well, we blew up underneath our feet. And that one shot us up in the air. This is, we're given blindness, nausea, and resistance for a little bit of time. This is just, these things are super goofy. You can even have all of your items tossed out of your inventory, technically. And there we go. So we got that effect again. We got night vision on this one, though. Oh, boy. It just can give you some random effects, which is just super fun to play with. Looks like we also got a brewery. But we need to make the terrasteel agglomeration plate. And this is going to require a a bit of mana steel and lapis. So thankfully I have all of these things, and we just need to combine this together. And we're also going to need lapis blocks for the platform that this is going to go onto. And I think I'm going to place it right here and remove the inferior farmland, because we're doing this differently now. Oh, that's hilarious. One of them ended up giving us our head from drinking that potion. Oh, that's funny. So here we go. We have ourselves an agglomeration plate. Let's take some lapis. Pretty sure I already have lapis blocks built up. Nice. And then we're going to need living rock. So the way that you build this, you could use the Lexica Botania to build it, but if you were like me and you've played with this mod for years, you're going to know exactly how this is going to be laid out. So let's go ahead and remove these blocks, and I'm essentially going to be making a square here. And what I'm going to need to do is place down a living rock directly in the center, and that's where the agglomeration plate is going to go, just like this. And then on the outside, we're going to place living rock, and then up next to this is going to be the lapis, just like this. And this is essentially the agglomeration plate. Now, to move mana from one place to another, this is where sparks from Botania play a role. And sparks are very important because instead of basically sending your mana via the mana spreader, which can be pretty slow, instead we're going to send it with sparks. Now, when we place this in, we should be able to see the spark here, and right here is the spark. So we have from this mana pool, it will provide mana to this pad, and now we should have the means to craft the new seed that we're going to be going after, which is going to be titanium. So now to make this seed, we just need the prosperity. We need some aluminum, aka aluminium, depending on where you're from. And we also need a mana diamond, which we actually get via the quest, which is pretty nice. But if not, you can go ahead and drop a just regular diamond into your mana pool. So to place these on here, we can just right click them onto the plate, or you can drop them on. I prefer right clicking because it puts them right where you want them. And there we go. We now have a new seed to add to our seed farm. By the way, we're also given the supremium farmland for this as well, which is very nice. So we can go ahead. I'm going to replace my air essence for right now and place my titanium seed in there. And now we have exactly what we need. Now that we have our titanium, the setup for this is kind of interesting. We're going to need 9 titanium, and that's supposed to go into a wire mill to be converted into a titanium coil. So we have essentially done the titanium coil section now, and we have completed this, working our way towards a better future. We've completed the I Am Titanium quest. So titanium, this is going to unlock a few things, I believe. So this is going to be a new machine part that is going to allow us to make the stainless steel and many other things. So we're going to need to make an energized alloyer. So energized alloyer is going to require all of the other stuff that we have had set up thus far, except I'm going to need to convert my my current setup that's making gears into making plates. So I should have a plate cast. Now all of this should still work. It's just as of right now, we won't be able to make gears while we're working on this. So I've swapped those out, and I'm going to get some recipes for some plates in there. Now this next part might get a little bit confusing, and I'm going to try my best to explain it. So essentially, I'm going to try and set up a little spot over here in order to do this. I would love to connect it to this setup, but I just don't think that this setup is going to work. I wish these could go like upside down. That'd be really nice, but instead everything has to go on the floor. So what I want to do is we have to get up to the 480 volts to power this thing. So I got all of my ceramic plates, everything's done. We have this machine, but we need to reach 480 volts. So my initial thought was I can connect 4 combustion chambers up to 1 upgrade transformer, but that is not exactly correct, and it did not work. The way that I'm thinking about doing it now, and I hope that this actually functions, is by placing down 2 sets of machines. For example, right here, we can do 2 sets of machines and kind of separate them. So we're going to have this 2 set, and we're going to have a set here. And ultimately what needs to happen is we are going to send that into 2 different transformers here, and then that will go into this transformer. Ultimately, we'll have a setup like this. So I kind of want to see if this is going to work. I'm going to need wires, and we should be able to just use copper wires. That should be more than enough for this setup. Looks like I had some already. And essentially, we're just going to run them like this. So this is going to step up the voltage from the 120, I believe, that these produce, into the 240, and then we need the 240 into the upgraded 480. And to upgrade that, we need to make sure that this can accept that, which these cables can accept 240. And so we should be able to transform that up. And we ultimately end up with a machine that should be able to be powered like this, connected here. Now, I think we can just directly connect our machine up to this transformer for right now. And that'll give us a good way to see if this is actually going to work. So I just need to get the fuel sources in these. And if my hypothesis is correct, we should now have power. And we need to send it chromium, which I've already got recipes set up for chromium. And this should allow us to process. And it does. Okay, so that's how you step up the power. And that's a great way to visualize this. Okay, so what I essentially probably want to do is I probably want to hide a lot of this. I don't know. This is a very weird thing to have set up. I mean, we can easily automate this here, though. I have just the place for this to get the automation set up. Now for this, I'm hoping I can just place something on top and then have a importer on the bottom, and hopefully that will get everything working. And then I'll just run my cable like so, and I'm in a different wing. I'm just right across. And since this is such a big layout, we'll go ahead and get this in here, and that should work. Let's test this out. So I'll just simply request some stainless steel. And yes, it does look like it works. It sent it, and it is extracting it as well. Perfect. Automated. Now with this, we can make the mass fabricator, because that was the big thing that we needed. And so I have all of the ingredients now in order to make the mass fab. So let's put this together, and then let's set it up. So without further ado, I present to you the mass fabricator. And this should directly be able to receive power connected here. And by the way, just from our time working on all this stuff, this is some of the things that we've gathered, including netherite scrap. Look at that, gas tiers, which by the way, these can be converted into ender pearls. We got a bunch of redstone, rubber, just free stuff. It's just free stuff. Diamonds, I love it. Look at that, even bread. I'll never need to make food again. Now we want to sort of lower the rate that this is being fed into, and this is where we're going to need some more item cards. And I think we really only need one. And this is where I'm going to talk to you about priorities and how powerful priorities are. So if I place this down in here, it's going to have a very slow progress. This thing is pretty darn slow, but that's where we can actually boost it up. So in its production of making UU matter, we need to send it these scrap boxes that these are producing. So we have the scrap boxes that are being made. We actually want to route the scrap boxes somewhere else. So at the moment, this is being fed those boxes. Let's actually make it a lower priority than what we're about to send to the down. So now this should receive the scrap boxes because we put it on the down, and you see the amplifier goes up. That allows this to actually work faster. So it's going to be more efficient with the power we're sending it, and it's going to produce faster. Now also on the down, I want to, let's go ahead and add another item card. We want to also pull the UU matter that this produces out, and I want to put it into this barrel. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and make a new channel, and we're going to make this a pink channel, and then take our new item card, and we'll make it also on the pink channel. And we can put this on an extract, and then we need to select the down on this, and it doesn't need to be fast or anything like that because it's a pretty slow process. But on the down of this machine, we now have a new item card that's going to pull it out, and we want to send it over here to the east into this barrel. And so this barrel should now fill with UU matter over time, and any residual scrap boxes that this doesn't build up will end up going into the centrifugal extractor, and that will end up still producing things for us. But this whole setup here is ultimately, it should produce excess scrap boxes over time. Now, in just a matter of minutes, we should have UU matter. And just like that, there's our first UU matter, and it went in here. And so we have effectively gotten ourselves a pink blob. And well, this is a turning point. This is a turning point because this opens up a ton of stuff. So now that we have completed this section, now all of this stuff slowly starts to come to light, such as the defragmentation and how we're going to progress through that now that we have all of our base infrastructure up. that is just going to run over time. Now, ultimately, we probably want to eventually move to iron for this, and this will produce scrap. And so if we have scrap going in here, this will perform way, way better. And I'm pretty sure the scrap metal is exactly what we need. So we could bypass this whole setup and use this, and the amplifier should go way faster once it has used scrap metal. But that'll be something that we work on in the future, because for right now, we're just going to use scrap boxes. So with that, guys, we have UU matter, and this is only going to send us further and further through this pack. Now that we have it producing, anything that we do outside of this, it's just going to continue to produce for us. So we'll definitely have an abundant supply of it. And guys, I thank you so much for all your tremendous support during this series, and I hope you're enjoying thus far. If you are, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video a huge thumbs up. Well, guys, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Wits End. Thank you so much for your amazing support, by the way, over on the Discord, becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. Not only just supporting in one of the best ways, but absolutely going above and beyond. Thank you so much. And guys, if you're looking forward to joining, all you have to do is go to discord.gg/ChosenArchitect, or you could potentially become a member here on YouTube as well. So be sure to check that out. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. And as always, I'll say it again. Thanks for watching. Bye.